What if the only way to save your village was to let someone die every season? For generations, the people of Idu made a deadly deal with the spirit, trading lives for rain. But when a young fisherman dares to say no more, he uncovers a truth so powerful it could free them all or destroy everything. This is not just a story about sacrifice. It's a fight for freedom, memory, and the courage to break a curse. Are you ready to step into the river and face the spirit? Long ago, in the heart of the forested valleys of the Odan Kingdom, there was a peaceful village called Idu. The people of Idu lived simple lives, planting, fishing, sharing, and dancing under the moonlight. The river that flowed through the village, called Omi Ola, was the lifeline. It watered their farms, fed their families, and gave joy to their children. But one year, everything changed. The rain stopped, not just for a few days, but for many weeks. The ground turned dry and cracked. The leaves on the trees turned brown and feel like tears from the sky. The river that once sang to the villagers now lay silent, shrinking little by little every day. Children fell sick. Mothers cried. Fathers stared at the empty skies. Even the oldest elder could not remember a time like this. The village was dying. The villagers prayed to the gods. They poured water at the shrine, burned incense, sang songs, but the skies refused to listen. One night, the elders called a secret meeting. They gathered under the large Iroko tree near the edge of the forest. Their faces were worn with worry. Chief Olode, the oldest among them, spoke in a trembling voice. "We have done all we can. We must now ask her." The others gasped. "Her? You mean the river spirit?" asked Elder Maku, eyes wide. Chief Olode nodded slowly. "Yes, Omi Ola is not just water. She is alive, and she listens, if we dare to speak to her. But she is dangerous," someone whispered. "She is also powerful," Olode replied. "She can bring rain, life, and plenty, but nothing comes without a price." Despite their fear, the elders agreed. The next evening, as the sun dipped low and cast golden shadows over the dead fields, Chief Olode walked alone to the edge of the riverbed. He stood barefoot, holding a gourd of palm wine, and whispered an old chant, one not sung for over 100 years. The wind blew, the water shimmered. Then she appeared. A tall, graceful figure rose from the river, a woman made of water and moonlight. Her eyes glowed like silver stars. Her voice was soft, yet it shook the earth. "Why have you called me, children of Idu?" Olode fell to his knees. "Great spirit of Omi Ola, our people are dying. The rain has forgotten us. We need your help. We are begging you." The spirit watched him, her face unreadable. Then she spoke the words that would change Idu forever. "I will bring the rain. I will fill your river. But for every season I bless you, one life must be given to me." Silence. Olode trembled. "One life?" "Yes," she replied, her eyes gleaming. "A soul for the rain. Do you agree?" With tears in his eyes, Olode whispered, "We have no choice." And just like that, the deal was made. The next morning, rain fell, the river swelled, the fields turned green again, the village rejoiced. But in the middle of the celebration, a young boy from the village was found, lifeless, lying near the river. The bargain had begun. The villagers of Idu danced in the rain like children seeing it for the first time. They lifted their faces to the sky, mouths open in laughter. Drums echoed. Songs of joy filled the air. It was a day of celebration. Their prayers had been answered. But then, the singing stopped. At the edge of the river, a mother wailed. Her son, little Taju, only 7 years old, was found lying on the wet ground, his eyes open but empty. No wounds, no marks, just gone. The village grew quiet. Whispers filled the air like smoke. What happened? Was it the spirits doing? Chief Holiday stepped forward, his face heavy with sorrow. We must not forget the bargain. The river spirit asked for one life. This is the price we agreed to. But he was only a child, cried the mother. The spirit did not ask for age, Olode replied softly, only a life. From that moment on, the people of Idu lived with fear in their hearts. Yes, the rains had returned, and the land was green again, but they never knew whose life the river spirit would take next. Every season, it happened. Sometimes, it was a farmer. Other times, a grandmother. Once, even a newborn baby. The village built a shrine near the river. Every season they left offerings: yam, cola nuts, palm oil, and cloth. They begged the spirit to spare the young and the weak. Sometimes she listened, sometimes she didn't. But the rains kept coming, and the people kept paying. Years passed, then decades, and still the bargain stood. The elders who made the deal grew old and died. New leaders took their place. They were born into a world where one life each season was the price of survival. It became normal. Children were taught not just how to fish or farm, but how to say goodbye. Families feared the change of seasons, not because of weather, but because of death. Some villagers tried to leave. They ran to other lands, hoping to escape the river's curse. But strange things happened. Their farms would fail. Their children would fall ill. They would return, empty-handed and broken. The spirit follows us, they whispered. We are tied to her. Stories spread of villagers hearing voices in the water, of seeing a glowing woman during moonlit nights. No one dared challenge her. Some even began to worship her, calling her Mama Omi. The once peaceful river had become a god of both life and death. And in this world, a boy named Oba was born. Oba was different. From a young age, everyone saw it. While other children played in the mud and chased goats, Oba sat by the river, watching, listening. He didn't speak much, but when he did, his words were sharp and thoughtful. He asked deep questions, ones that made even the elders pause. Why do we thank a spirit that takes our people? Why do we accept death to get rain? What if we say no? His mother, Amira, was a widow. Oba's father had been the chosen life one rainy season, taken when Oba was just a baby. Amira raised him alone, and though life was hard, she never let him go hungry, but she worried. Don't speak like that, she often whispered, her eyes darting. The spirit might hear you. But Oba didn't stop. He felt something deep in his bones. Something was wrong. This wasn't how life was meant to be. One day, when he was 14, he saw an old woman throw her only gold into the river as an offering. The woman cried as the animal floated away. Oba clenched his fists. I will not live in fear, he said to himself. This has to end. As he grew older, Oba became a fisherman. He was tall, with strong arms and sharp eyes. Every morning, he cast his net into the river that had taken his father. And every evening, he returned with fish for the village. People liked him. He was kind, humble, but they also feared the fire in his heart. Oba often sat by the river after his work, speaking to it. You took my father. You take someone every season. Why? What do you want from us? The river never answered, but Oba could feel it, watching. One dry season, the river slowed again. The villagers panicked. The sky was empty. The ground cracked, and the fear returned. They gathered at the shrine with their offerings. They cried. They prayed. But the rain did not come. A voice whispered through the air. The offering is not enough. Everyone froze. That night, a young girl disappeared. Her name was Sewa, only 10 years old. Oba found her slipper by the riverbank. He held it in his hands, his face dark with anger. This must end, he said. If no one else will stop her, I will. He turned to the water. Spirit of Omiola, I'm coming for you. When Oba returned home that evening, the fire in his heart showed in his eyes. He sat by the doorway, sharpening a small knife he used for cutting fish. But his mother, Amira, knew he wasn't thinking about fishing. You found Sewa's slipper? She asked softly, her voice tight with fear. Oba nodded. Near the river. She's gone, just like Papa. Amira's heart sank. She had lived long enough to see too many disappear, too many families cry, too many sacrifices made. But what terrified her most wasn't the river's hunger. It was the rage building in her son. Oba, please, she whispered, kneeling beside him. Don't do anything foolish. The spirit, she is older than time. She is not like us. Oba looked up. His jaw clenched. She feeds on us, year after year, and we keep thanking her for it. It's the only way we survive, Amira said. No, Oba replied. It's the way we've been taught to survive. But I don't want survival. I want freedom. Amira placed a hand on his chest. Don't let your father's death turn your heart to stone. Oba stared into the firelight. I won't. That's why I have to stop her. The next morning, Oba visited the village elder, Baba Oro, a man so old that his skin was like folded parchment, and his voice sounded like dry leaves rustling. Elder, Oba began, bowing respectfully. I want to know the truth about the river spirit. Everything. Baba Oro narrowed his eyes. Why, boy? I want to face her. The elder's wrinkled face tightened with worry. That spirit is not of flesh and blood. She is of old magic, ancient pacts, forgotten tongues. But someone made the first deal with her, didn't they? Oba asked. Baba Oro nodded slowly. Yes, Chief Olode. Long ago, he was desperate, and desperate men make dangerous promises. Then the old man did something unexpected. He rose slowly and hobbled to a hidden box beneath his mat. From it, he pulled out a dusty scroll wrapped in red cloth. This, he said, was written by the first scribe of Idu. It tells how the bargain began and how it might end. Oba opened it carefully. On it were symbols and lines in a language he didn't fully understand, but one phrase stood out, carved in bold ink. The spirit's chain is forged by fear. Break fear, break the chain. Oba looked up, eyes burning. That's all I needed to know. The villagers prepared for the new season with dread. The skies had finally darkened, and thunder rolled in the distance. Rain was coming, but so was death. On the night of the blood moon, a rare event when the moon glows deep red, Oba walked alone to the river. He carried no offering, no gourd, no goat, only the scroll in one hand and a bundle of firewood in the other. He set the firewood near the shrine and lit a small flame. Then he unrolled the scroll and began to speak aloud, not in chant or praise but in challenge. Omi, Ola, he called, spirit of the river, I summon you not to beg, but to speak. The water stirred, a ripple, then a wave, and then she rose. Her form shimmered like moonlight on water, taller than before, with eyes glowing like stars. You dare call me without tribute? She asked, her voice like rushing waves. Yes, Oba said calmly. I offer only my voice and my truth. She narrowed her eyes. Speak then. Oba held up the scroll. This says you feed on fear, that your power is not just in the water, but in the belief that we are helpless. The spirit frowned. That scroll is forbidden. Truth should never be forbidden, Oba replied. We made a deal once, but deals can be broken. If you truly need our fear to survive, then maybe you're not as powerful as we thought. A gust of wind blew. The river hissed, but Oba stood firm. The spirit stared at him long and hard, and then she vanished. That night, as Oba returned home, he had a strange dream. He stood in the middle of a vast silver river. Around him, children were laughing, splashing water, playing joyfully, but their faces looked familiar. Sewa, his father, little Taju, all the ones the spirit had taken. Then he saw her, the river spirit, but she looked different. She was younger, wearing simple robes. Her eyes weren't glowing. She looked sad. She spoke softly. I was once like them, a guardian, a friend to the people. But when the land turned to dust, they chained me. They made a deal. They turned me into a taker of life. Oba stared at her. But why didn't you stop? Her eyes filled with tears made of light. Because I forgot who I was. Then she reached out, and Oba woke up. Oba sat alone at the riverbank, the scroll in one hand, the dream fresh in his mind. He didn't know what it meant yet, but he felt it deep inside. The spirit wasn't just evil, she was trapped too. He went to Baba Oro and shared the dream. The elder listened closely, then nodded. You've touched something few ever do. Spirit truth. It is rare and powerful. So what do I do now? Oba asked. You must help her remember who she was. Baba Oro replied. Oba frowned. But how? The elder handed him a small object, an old carved stone, shaped like a fish. This was once placed at the river's heart, before the bargain. It is a symbol of peace. Oba took it. For the first time, he didn't feel angry. He felt ready. If the spirit has forgotten who she is, he whispered, then I will remind her. Oba returned to the river, and with the carved fish stone in his hand, he stood at the water's edge as the sun rose, painting the sky in gold and orange. The villagers watched from a distance. Some whispered prayers. Others feared he was going to anger the spirit again. He knelt by the shrine and whispered, if you once guarded this river, if you once loved us, tell me your name. There was no answer, only the soft gurgle of water against the rocks. But then, Baba Oro appeared behind him. I remember a story, the old man said, told to me as a boy, of a water maiden who healed the sick and sang to the trees. Her name was Aramide. Oba repeated it quietly, Aramide. At once, the river shimmered, the air thickened, and the water rose. The spirit appeared, not as a fearsome giant, but as a calm, glowing woman with soft, tear-filled eyes. You remember, she whispered. Oba nodded. You were Aramide, not a monster, not a curse, a guardian. She blinked slowly, pain in her expression. They chained me with fear, with blood. I forgot my name, my song, myself. Oba stepped closer. Then let's break the chain. When Oba told the village what had happened, not everyone rejoiced. Some elders were furious. You speak lies, shouted Elder Maku. The spirit is a god. She gives us rain. She keeps us alive. Oba stood firm. She was once our protector. She became what we made her. But we can free her. What if you're wrong? Someone asked. What if the river dries again? What if more people die? Another added. Chief Kanu, who had taken leadership in recent years, raised his hand for silence. Oba has risked his life. He deserves to be heard, but the rains feed us. We cannot risk losing them. Oba looked around. And what about the ones we lose every season? Is that not a greater price? A silence fell over the crowd. Amira stepped forward. I lost my husband to the river. I will not lose my son too, but I will stand by him, because I believe there must be another way. More villagers joined her. The division was clear. Half feared losing the bargain, and half feared living under it forever. Still, Oba knew he had to continue, whether alone or not. That night, Oba returned to the river, holding the fish stone in one hand and the scroll in the other. The spirit Aramide rose from the water, more human now than ever. I've remembered bits of who I was, she said softly. There was once a song I sang, a song of joy, of rivers and children. Sing it, Oba encouraged. Her voice trembled at first, but soon a melody filled the air. It was like the sound of wind in trees and the bubbling of clean water. Oba closed his eyes, and tears fell from his face. The village listened from afar. The melody seemed to wake something in the earth. Fireflies gathered. The river glowed faintly. Even the sky seemed to listen. When she finished, Aramide looked different, peaceful yet powerful. That is who you are, Oba whispered. Not death, not fear. You are life. She nodded. But I cannot break the chain alone. You must come to the river's heart, where the first bargain was sealed. And where is that? Oba asked. Beneath the rocks, where no sunlight reaches. You must go into the water. The next day, with only a satchel tied around his shoulder and the fish stone tucked close to his chest, Oba stepped into the river. The villagers watched with breath, held tight. Amira wept silently but stood strong. The current tugged at him. The water was cold, dark, heavy, but Oba kept swimming, deeper and deeper, until the world above disappeared. Down below, the water turned black as night. He felt something, an energy pulling him toward a hollow cave beneath the riverbed. He swam into it. Inside, he saw carvings on stone, images of the first villagers bowing to Aramide, giving her food, not lives. Then, images of the bargain being made, of fear twisting her face, of chains binding her arms. In the center of the cave lay a stone altar, glowing faintly. Oba took the fish stone from his satchel and placed it on the altar. Everything shook. A voice echoed, "The price must be broken by one who fears not death." Oba closed his eyes. Then, "Take me. Let me be the last."
Then, a burst of light. The river roared above as if the heavens had opened. Villagers screamed and ran toward the bank. The water turned golden. The sky cleared, and Oba floated to the surface, unconscious but alive. The spirit rose beside him, taller than ever, glowing not with wrath, but with peace. "The chain is broken," she said, her voice strong and clear. "No more lives will be taken." The villagers fell to their knees, weeping. Oba slowly opened his eyes and sat up. Aramide looked at him one last time. "Thank you for reminding me who I am." And with that, she disappeared into the light of the morning sun, leaving behind only the sound of soft flowing water and a village forever changed. The sun rose gently over the village of Idu. The river shimmered with a soft light, its waters flowing freely once again. Birds sang. Children ran near the bank without fear. For the first time in generations, no one looked over their shoulder when the rains came. Oba sat near the river, wrapped in a blanket. His body was sore, but his spirit was light. Amira knelt beside him, tears in her eyes. "You came back," she whispered. He smiled weakly. "I wasn't sure I would." The villagers gathered around him, unsure at first.
Some touched the water to see if it would bite. Others watched the sky for signs of danger. But when nothing happened and the river remained calm, they began to believe. Oba stood slowly and spoke. The spirit is free. The chain is broken. The river no longer takes life. Cheers broke out. People wept. Children clapped. But beneath the joy, there was also fear. What would happen without the bargain? Would the rains still come? Would the river still feed them? Oba didn't have all the answers, but he knew this. We will no longer live in fear, and whatever comes, we will face it together.
With the next season's arrival, the fields were green again. The rains had come, slow and steady, not wild or angry like before. The villagers watched the skies carefully, waiting for something to go wrong, but nothing did. The river stayed calm. No one went missing. No strange voices whispered in the wind. At the first harvest, a great feast was held. Oba sat beside a mirror, honored by the elders, surrounded by smiling faces. Even Chief Kanu stood to toast him. "You reminded us of who we are," the chief said, "and what we can be without fear." But not everyone was celebrating. Elder Maku, who had once worshipped the spirit like a god, sat in silence. He looked out at the river with unsure eyes. Later that night, he approached Oba. "You've done what many thought impossible," he said. "But if the rains stop again, they will blame you." Oba nodded. "Then I will carry that blame, because I know we are no longer bound to fear." And with that, a new season of freedom began in Idu. Weeks passed, and life in Idu seemed to settle. But fear, once planted deep, does not disappear easily. Whispers began to spread. What if the spirit comes back? What if we've angered the gods? What if the river dries up again? Oba heard the rumors. He tried to calm the fears, to remind the people of Aramide's final words. But doubt has a way of growing in the dark. One night, someone left the goat by the river, an old offering, just in case. Another person burned incense near the shrine. The fear was creeping back in. Oba stood before the people once again. "We must not return to our chains," he said. "Yes, the future is uncertain, but we must not sacrifice our freedom for false safety." Some listened, some didn't. But Oba remained strong, and the river remained calm. The village elders met to discuss the future of Idu. With the course broken, they needed new customs, new beliefs, new leadership. Chief Kanu spoke first. "We must teach the children the truth about the spirit, the bargain, and the courage that broke it." Elder Maku shook his head. "All we risk forgetting and repeating the past." "But repeating the past means living in fear," said Baba Oro, "and that time must end." Then all eyes turned to Oba. "You have shown wisdom beyond your years," Chief Kanu said. "We ask you to lead, not as a chief, but as a guide, a protector of our freedom." Oba was silent for a long moment. "I do not seek power," he said finally, "but I will serve. I will remind us of what we fought for and what we must never become again." The council agreed. Oba became the village's voice of truth, the guardian of the river's memory. It was late afternoon when a stranger arrived in Idu. He wore a long, dusty robe and leaned heavily on a carved wooden staff. His eyes were sharp yet tired, as though he had seen many lifetimes. The villagers gathered with curiosity. It wasn't often someone came from outside. He introduced himself as Isu, a traveler from the east. "I've heard whispers," he said, "of a village that broke a spirit's curse. I came to see if the stories were true." Oba welcomed him, offering food and a place to rest. Esu asked many questions about Aramide,
the rivers passed, and the bargain. He seemed less amazed and more thoughtful, like someone searching for something deeper. At night, while sitting by the fire, he told Oba, "In my land, there are spirits bound in the same way, chained by fear, fed by sacrifice. Perhaps what you did here can be done elsewhere." Oba looked into the flames. "I didn't just fight the spirit," he said. "I helped her remember who she was. That's where her power truly came from." Isu nodded slowly. "Then, maybe your story isn't just for Idu."
The old shrine by the river, once the place where offerings were made, where blood was spilled, and where fear was taught, stood quietly by the bank. But after months of disuse, it had begun to crack. One morning, a loud rumble shook the ground. Villagers rushed out to find the shrine had collapsed. Some gasped, others wept. But Oba did not mourn it. "We do not need a shrine built on fear," he said. "Let this place return to the earth." Instead, the village came together to build a new space. A small stone platform surrounded by flowers and painted fish stones. It was not a place for sacrifice, but for storytelling. Children came there to hear Baba Oro and Oba speak of the past, of the deal, the darkness, the freedom. The broken shrine became a lesson. If a place holds pain, let it fall. If it held fear, let it fade. And if it once took lives, let it never rise again. Dark clouds rolled across the sky one late evening. The air thickened. Thunder growled. The people of Idu looked to the heavens with old fear creeping into their hearts. Would someone die again? Was the spirit returning? Oba gathered them in the square. He held nothing in his hands. No offering, no incense, just his voice. "We are free," he said. "Rain is not our enemy. It is not payment. It is a gift of nature, not of fear." The storm broke loose. Heavy rain poured. The river swelled, but calmly. No lives were taken. No one vanished. Instead, the next morning brought blooming flowers and full wells. Children splashed in puddles, and farmers danced in the mud. The people realized the rain was no longer cursed. For the first time in generations, they welcomed the storm not with dread, but with joy. Months passed, and the village of Idu blossomed like never before. The river flowed peacefully, crops grew in abundance, and children laughed without fear. But Oba's heart stirred with something new, a restlessness. He often sat at the river's edge with Isu, the traveler from the east. "There are other villages, still trapped in fear," Isu said. "Other rivers, other spirits." Oba nodded. "Then, I must go." Emira watched her son pack his small bag, a few clothes, the scroll, the carved fish stone, and a pouch of seeds from the house of remembering. "You are no longer just my son," she said, hugging him tightly. "You belong to the world now." Oba's voice cracked. "I will return, and I will make you proud." "You already have," she whispered. As the villagers gathered to say goodbye, Oba turned to them and smiled. "This is not an end. This is a beginning. Let the story of Idu be a light to others." And with that, he walked into the sunrise, toward new lands, new spirits, and new hope. With Oba gone, the village turned to Baba Oro and Amira to carry the story forward. At the house of remembering, children sat in a circle while Baba Oro spoke in his warm, gravelly voice. There once was a spirit named Aramide. She loved the people, but fear turned her into something else, until one boy reminded her of who she truly was. They listened, wide-eyed, clutching painted stones and clay fish. Amira added herbs to bowls as she taught the meaning of healing, not just of the body, but of memory.
Young girls began writing scrolls, while boys carved stones to mark events. The oral tradition now danced with ink and clay. And so, the story lived on, not just in the river, but in every heart, every song, every seed planted in Idu. Years passed. Idu became known across the region as a village that had once freed a river spirit. Visitors came to learn. Children were born without ever knowing fear of the water. They danced in the rain, planted trees by the riverbank, and built boats with stories carved into the wood. The house of remembering grew larger. A statue of Aramide, carved in peace, not power, stood near the river, holding a fish stone in one hand and open arms in the other. Every year, on the day Oba had broken the chain, the villagers held the festival of remembrance. They sang her song, they told his story, and they reminded one another. The river once demanded life. Now, it gives it freely. The spirit was once feared. Now, she is honored. And the boy who stood against fear gave us all the courage to live again. And so, the river flowed. And the story lived on forever.
Subscribe for more interesting African folk tales. Like, share, and comment.